Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today I'm going to be going over some of the economic indicators that are going to be coming out this week and why I think that those are important. I am on TD Ameritrade's website, and it is currently Sunday, August 14th. So some of the metrics just to go through what we're calling out, and then I'm going to call out the three items on this list that I am most interested in. Tomorrow on Monday, August 15th, we have the Empire State Manufacturing, the NAHB Housing Market Index, and the TIC Net Long-Term Transactions. While all of these items are definitely important and we may see the market move on some of them, in particular the Empire State Manufacturing Index, that's something, or these three items are not what I'm going to be primarily focused on. However, on Tuesday, as someone who has interest in real estate, I'm going to be looking at the housing starts in particular. However, I also recognize that building permits are going to be an important component of what we're going to be looking for. Again, housing starts is the one that I'm going to be primarily watching because we've seen a large drop in housing starts since the start of the market downturn, when we saw interest rates start to increase earlier this year. As the Fed has started to increase interest rates, we've seen homes decline in market value, and we're seeing a lot of feedback on this idea that we may see a housing market crisis. Now, let's put this in perspective in terms of what we're looking at by going to the actual chart. So I pulled up new privately owned housing units started, and this is the total housing units or total units. There's a few other different metrics. To put this in perspective, since 2000 in terms of what we were looking at, you can see that we saw a huge increase in new home builds leading up to 2008-2009 financial crisis, and we've subsequently seen that return quite rapidly, again this upward slope, whereas in the grand scheme of things we're still pretty much, I'd say, par for the course over a longer term horizon. And that being said, when we're looking at where we are today, there is a significant drop since this calendar year started. Now, some of that I don't think is going to be largely cancellations, but rather what I would expect to see is people saying, hey, we don't think we're going to get quite the same return on investment, so we're going to see that rapid decline. Now, the question is going to be are we going to see a return to the 2016 to 2018 time period, or are we going to maintain an elevated level that we saw actually leading up to the COVID crash and subsequent kind of rebound? So that's going to be retail, or rather new home starts, and that's what we're going to be looking for, is what is this number going to come in at. Keep in mind that number is going to be 1,500 or 1,543,000. So moving on to Wednesday, what we're expecting to see there. This is the info that I am going to be primarily watching, recognizing that on Thursday we are going to have the initial and continuing claims, as well as existing home sales, which is still going to be very pertinent to the overall real estate market. I'm going to be watching on Wednesday for two key items, one being the retail sales metrics, which is normally a very strong display of what we're seeing from the American consumer. And I'm also going to be looking for those FOMC minutes where the Fed comes out and we actually can see some of the conversations that they had in the prior FOMC meeting and discussion. So in terms of retail sales, the important thing to acknowledge is that this number has been exploding higher, but this is also something that we're looking at from a view tied to inflation metrics. Because the price of things has gotten more expensive, I would expect retail sales to continue to climb. What we start to see concerns is as prices are going up, people are spending less because they're actively choosing to not go out and spend money. Let's take a look at that chart as well. What I've got here on the screen is the retail trade or retail sales that we've got up on the screen. You're seeing a very strong climb, especially following the rapid decline that we saw at the beginning of COVID. It's important, and this is something that I do want to call out, is that the information I'm using is provided by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. This is Fred. It's been here on the channel before. It's a great place to identify and pull these metrics. But you can see this metric has continued to climb despite the fact that we are seeing added pressure in terms of year-over-year spending. This does normally go up, especially in the holiday time period in Q4. So seeing how these numbers come out for the month of July and subsequently in August and September will give a good gauge of the economic capabilities and the strength of the American consumer. So let's dive back in. What I have pulled up is the FOMC committee meetings, the Federal Open Market Committee, and you can see on this website, and I'll link it in the description, that the minutes from the July meeting have not been released. Keep in mind that that is not going to be available until this Wednesday. They are normally released a few weeks after the actual meeting, and this is essentially going to walk through what was their thoughts and feedback when they were developing their dot plots, when they were determining if they needed to do a rising interest rate or raise their interest rates. That's something that is important to see, but it is a backward looking metric. So despite the fact that I expect there to be a market reaction, the immediate follow-up is everyone looks at that and says, well, things have changed by XYZ type of way since that point in time. So there are a number of moving parts, and these are the three items that I'm going to be watching for this week, mainly focusing on A, housing, B, the strength of the American consumer, and C, going to be here associated with what the Federal Reserve is stating in their minutes that are going to be released this week. So let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on these items, and if you find this content helpful, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks. Talk to you later.